Hello, ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes. This is Robert Budd, and thank you so much for listening, first off. And, I'm going to cough. All right, let's try this again. Take two. Hey there, friends and foes, ladies and gentlemen. This is Robert Budd and Robert Budd Show. And in this episode, I am going to go over my 2016. And normally, what I would do is set intentions and do resolutions and goals and all that kind of stuff for 2017. And instead, I decided to look back at 2016 and what I implemented and what actually worked and some of the things that didn't work. And so what I did, who was a huge influence in this was Tim Ferriss. I just want to thank Tim Ferriss first off. Really doubting that he's listening to this right now, but he was a huge influence for me in 2016 for a lot of different reasons. At one time, I did meet Tim. We do one thing's called kettlebells. So if you know me, you know that I do kettlebells. And Tim and I did a certification, a level two certification in Minnesota way back in the day. And I distinctly remember Tim asking a lot of questions, which was really cool because if you didn't have questions, Pavel would have you do swings. And so he would actually ask after he was lecturing or during his lectures, does anybody have any questions? And, I have it that I don't want to ask a question unless it's like the greatest question, some question that everybody is dying to know, the burning question, where Tim was just like, just ask a question, man. No question's a dumb question. So that's what I remember about Tim. And so listening to his podcast in 2016, I got a ton of tools that I implemented in my life. And actually, his new book out right now is Tools of Titans, and that I'm reading. And so far, so good. I highly recommend it. So go out and get it, or have it gifted to you. Just find a random person, say, "This is what I want as a gift." So I highly recommend it. So what Tim does is he deconstructs these high performers, just like really looks at what those high performers out in the world are doing and their strategies and their daily habits and stuff like that. And I get all kinds of great information. And it's not Tim's information, he's just asking questions, but it's all these, different writers and actors and military personnel, generals and special op guys and all kinds of, different people that I would never even think of to ask what they do in their life to be high performers, but he does, and thank goodness. So I got all kinds of stuff, and in this episode, I'm going to go over a couple of them that I, found, implemented, used, was good, bad, not so good. We'll use again. We'll keep using, whatever that might be. I also want to add that not everything that I implemented last year was from Tim Ferriss, but his podcast got the creative juices flowing, and I really was able to look at what I wanted to add and what I hadn't added into my life that I knew would make a difference. And so I just wanted to, put that in, that not everything that I talk about in this podcast is from Tim Ferriss's show. All right, so there you go. Enjoy the show. And once again, thanks for listening. So I'm sitting here at my table in mi casa. That's my Spanglish. Sitting here in mi casa. Darn those Spanglish speakers. And I just love my life. I love what I've created. I love what my wife and I have created. And we live exactly where we want to live, and San Diego. It's beautiful weather. I do exactly what I want to do. And this podcast being one of them. So this is one of the things that I implemented in 2016 is doing a podcast. And it was a dare out of a friend of mine named Albert Galura. I want to say his name right. Albert Galura. And hopefully I will have him on my podcast this year. I really want to interview him and deconstruct his life. So we were in a business group together, and we were looking at things that we can do that's outside of what our current business. So my business is fitness, and something that to do that's totally outside of the norm that I normally do. And he says, well, I challenge you to start a podcast. I said, well, I don't know anything about doing a podcast. I listen to him. I listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast, and but I have no idea how to do them. So, but that was the challenge. Have 8 episodes of a podcast recorded and ready to have out in the public within a month, and which was an impossible task. I don't even do that now that I'm doing these podcasts. I don't have 8 in the hole ready to go, but I went to work on it. I was like, okay, let's do 8. First of all, I gotta figure out how the heck to do this podcast. Figure out how to do it. What equipment I needed, all that kind of stuff. Reached out to some people that I knew that were doing podcasts and figure out how to do it. And then I had to find guests. And what turned out to happen is I love doing the podcast. I love interviewing people. I love finding out what their daily habits are, what kind of influences they've had in their life who makes them who they are. These people inspire me. People in general inspire me, but these fascinating people in my life, I know the guests, and whether it's in fitness industry or doctors and lawyers and people in the military, it all fascinates me. How did you get to where you are today, and where are you going from here? What's next for you? So that's what I did. So podcast was one of the things that I implemented this year. Another thing that I implemented this year was floating. And I did a podcast with the owner of North County Float, and his name is Glenn Stokey. And it was an amazing podcast because I learned so much about floating, the history of it. You guys can listen to it. It's on the past podcasts. And floating for me has been one of the things besides meditating and taking time by myself, which is another thing that I implemented. I'll talk about that in a second. Has been one of the most beneficial things that I've done for my well-being this year. I highly recommend it. Go out, do it, try, 3, 4, 5 sessions, at least, do it once a week for 5 weeks, and just see, if it's for you. If it's not for you, just spend the money, do it, and see if it works for you. Works for me. I love doing it. So another thing that I implemented was taking a half hour in the morning. Most mornings, I intentionally or initially wanted to do it every single morning, get out and walk for a half hour. And not all mornings work that well for me to do that, because some mornings I'm up at 3:30, have to be out of the house at 4, at my client's house at 4:30. So getting up a half hour earlier than what I do just doesn't seem to work for me. So most days I get up, take care of the morning business, get out and walk for a half hour. Sometimes I will just walk and not listen to anything, but most times I listen to Headspace. And Headspace is a meditation app that actually has a walking section in there. Like, it's like a mindful guided meditation. It's not meditation when you're walking, but it's mindfully it's a mindful activity, right? So it gets you really present to what you're actually doing, and that assists me, that supports me in the rest of my day to be present in what I'm doing and focus and on what I'm doing, on the tasks that I'm doing, don't get distracted, and just walking around the neighborhood and focusing on actually walking and breathing and my surroundings. It's a really amazing experience and has done so much for my well-being and my mental outlook, and I highly recommend that too. Get out first thing in the morning, maybe do some light stretches before you go, and then just get out and walk. I do it between, I would say, 20 and 25 minutes, rarely ever over 30 minutes. All right, so doing that, and meditation, of course, I dabble in meditation. Actually, what I think I'm doing is sitting quietly and listening to my thoughts. That's pretty much what I'm doing. When I say that I'm quote unquote meditating, that's probably what's going on. Is I'm just sitting there listening to my thoughts, but it's guided. I listen to Headspace, which is really great. Want to give a big shout out to Headspace. I love that app. I subscribed to it in 2016 for the whole year. I do it. I listen to it consistently, at least I would say at least 5 times a week. So I would do that. Implement that into your life. It's made a real difference into my life, and I'm not saying go out and implement all these things into your life. Like, I chipped away at these a big huge list of what I wanted to do, that I had goals of doing, and I just slowly put them into my schedule and started to implement them. So another thing that I took on in 2016 that both worked and didn't work, as I took on a huge leadership role in a company called, and most people know me, that they know that I do, I have done education of Landmark Education, Landmark Worldwide, which has been an amazing part of my life, and I can't imagine my life without it. Actually, I know what my life would be without it, and I'd be that human being that just turned out to be. So if you want some serious growth and development, go do Landmark. I highly recommend it. So in 2016, I took on a big leadership role and worked on, in particularly, leading introductions, and which was amazing inside of training and development for public speaking, for interacting with people, interacting with individuals. What do I do all day long in my business is I interact with people, and it got me to where I was interested in people's lives rather than being interesting. There's a big difference of being interested rather than being interesting, and I'm actually taking that on a different cut, a different fold of it this year in 2017. Being interested. That's going to be in a different podcast, so listen for that. And so what worked is that I really went for it. I full bore, pedal to the metal. I assisted as much as I possibly could, and it really worked with my development. It didn't work with quote unquote time management, managing my well-being, managing my time spent with my friends and my family, and especially my wife. It takes a lot of time doing other things, right? I mean, if you're spending time doing other things, you're not spending time doing something else. So I put the brakes on that so I can take that time and do other things, and actually take that training development that I got from Landmark, which was priceless, absolutely priceless. And I don't want to make it seem like that time was not well spent, because I can't imagine spending that time any other way for any other development. It was just awesome. I don't know if any of you have ever done a program where you're like, wow, that was worth every tiblet, every second that I got out of it. That was this experience that I had with Landmark. And that's not the end, and I've been participating in Landmark since 2012, so it wasn't the beginning, it's not the end of participation. So that's what I did. inside of that, growth and development in 2016. Another thing that I took on was being coached, and inside of my business in particularly. So I believe that we need coaches in our lives. Like I have a financial coach, I have a workout coach, even trainers need trainers. So I took on a business coach. And I'm going to take this little sip of something else that I took on this year is mushroom coffee. So here's some little sip. Oh, yeah, it's actually really yummy. Took that on this year too. I'll get to that. So, being coached by a gentleman named Eric Rojas, and his company, the program, it was called Peak. And with Eric, he's going to be on the show this month. Also, I'm going to interview him in just a couple of days, and that show will come out in January of 2017. And Eric had me take my business to another level. I wanted to double my business. I wanted to double my sessions. You know, if most people know me, I'm a personal trainer, and I go see my clients in their homes. And I had, so just to be in reality with it, I was averaging probably 10 to 13 sessions a week, something like that. And doing however I was doing, but I wanted to go to the next level. That just wasn't good enough for me, for what Lindsay and I are actually up to. My wife, Lindsay, and I are up to in our life. Making that amount of money just wasn't going to support what we were actually wanting to create in our life, which is a family and, financial well-being and all that kind of stuff. So my goal with Eric was to take my sessions and double them, which I did. And what was really cool about that, it wasn't like he told me what to do. He had me discover for myself, really what to do, what kind of actions to take inside the company, and of what I was doing in the business. And I started, doing all kinds of different stuff to promote business, to take care of the clients that I have now, which all seems like, oh yeah, of course you're going to take care of your clients. But having a coach kept me accountable. I said I was going to do this, and did I do it? Did I not do it? What actions did I take? Where did I succeed? Where did I fail? Just have really somebody to keep me accountable and keep me on the right path with, goals that were directional goals. Which direction am I going? And end goals, like, okay, by this date, this is what you're going to produce, what I'm going to produce by this date, which was phenomenal. Really turned my business around, doubled my business easily. I've made more money this year than I've ever made while being self-employed, and looking to take it up another notch this year in the way of making more money, yet spending less time making that money. And this year I realized that I can actually do that, because as my sessions doubled, how many times I was actually seeing people, it seemed like I wasn't doing as much. So that was a breakthrough. So anyways, I took that on this year. Another thing that I took on was going to church. Lindsay and we found a church that's local to us here in Encinitas, and it's actually not a church as I guess when I say I went to church, first thing you think of is Catholic or Christian or Mormon or something like that, temple. It's called Seaside Spiritual Center, and that's exactly what it is. It's a spiritual center, and excuse me, it incorporates all different religions. So if you're a Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, Mormon, whatever, everybody's accepted, and it wasn't like I call dogma religion. It wasn't that kind of religious service, which really served myself And Lindsay, my wife, we went just about every Sunday. We went as many Sundays as we could. Probably went 90% of the year, and it really filled us up. It filled our soul up. It was a great. It is a great message. We're going to continue to go, and that's one thing that I've been wanting to add into my life is spirituality, but didn't know how and how to access that, and we found it this year. Um, Another thing that I took on was a competition, a weight loss, quote unquote weight loss. It was a body competition. So it was what we did was we took it was 40 days, and we took a picture of before and after pictures. There was a before picture. Everybody fattened themselves up, took a picture, and then did whatever they did for 40 days. We actually had a Facebook group, and we flipped each other a bunch of crap, all, consistently posted pictures of our food, of our workouts, of us sweating, of us, having a good time, having a bad time, what we were struggling with, what we were succeeding at, the whole deal. And then at the end, we had an after, we took after pictures, and when we joined it, we all put in $100, and so when I put money down on something, that's like skin in the game for me. If I put, if it's just my word, if I'm just in a competition and I'm not really gonna win anything or I didn't put anything up, I don't put as much into it. Like when I used to bodybuild, I mean, it was expensive to be in bodybuilding competitions. It's not free, and it's not cheap. So, and you're in your underwear in front of 200 or plus people, so that's definitely skin in the game. So I took that on, worked out a little differently, ate a little differently, had a little different motivation, motivation weaned. At times I was like, yeah, I'm kicking butt, and at other times I was like, screw this, this is a bunch of crap, all the rest of the people are lame. But I took on all kinds of different stuff, looking at increasing my testosterone, taking different supplements, working outside more, getting different, tone and tan, and did more pretty muscle exercises. And what I found is, man, that bodybuilding way of lifting really beats my body up. It did not do well for my shoulders, especially. It actually not messed up anything, but it didn't help my posture at all. It tightened me up where my posture was not as upright as I normally am or like to be. And so, moral of the story, I'm not doing that again. At least I'm not going about doing those kind of exercises just to look like I'm getting a pump or my arms are bigger or whatever, just to win this competition or do well in this competition. That's what I was thinking, is if I can lean out my abdomen and make my arms look bigger, then I would win. And so, did extra curls, this and that. That wasn't the best way of doing it. What I found was, just watch what goes in your mouth is the whole thing, the whole game. Just be aware of what you put in your mouth and what works for you. So if you're a person that works well on high fat, eat high fat. If you get fat on a bunch of carbohydrates and like pastas and breads, if that doesn't work for your metabolism, don't eat it. So that actually doesn't work for my metabolism. I do really well on a lot more of a longer fasting from my last meal to my first meal the next day. From one evening to the next morning, I work well on a longer fast and a very high fat diet, and no, typical carbohydrates that like pasta, breads, potatoes, stuff like that. That's no bueno for me. Alcohol, beer, that doesn't work for me. So took that on. Didn't win, but did pretty well. I think because that I'm really highly competitive and I'm going to win regardless. I'm going to do everything that I possibly can, minus starving myself. I definitely didn't starve myself, but knowing how to pose in the after pictures helped. I think I don't know, stacked the deck with that one because I have done bodybuilding and I know how to pose and blow out all the air to get your abs to show and all this kind of stuff. I knew how to pose really well, and I think that's what had the after pictures look fairly decent. And plus, I got tanned up and all this kind of stuff. So, and the last thing that, or actually another thing, not the last thing, but another thing that I took on this year, I got ordained as a minister to marry friends of mine, Dr. Singh and Rosemary Singh. Now, Rosemary's now Singh. And I married them in November, and it was phenomenal. It was one of the most extraordinary experiences that I've ever had. Actually, it was the end of October. And it was extraordinary in the fact that joining two people for in partnership or life, however you want to kind of put a spin on it, joining two people in life was amazing. And people ask me, "Oh, were you nervous?" There's probably 100 people there, or something like that. And I was asked if I was nervous or if I would do it again. And then some asked me how many times have I done it before, and actually it was my first time ever marrying somebody, officiating a wedding. And I just want to tell you that it was, first I want to thank Rahul and Rosemary for giving me the opportunity. That was phenomenal and loving, and I don't even know what to say, trusting. They just trusted that I would do a good job, I guess. And they said that this is who I am and who I am in the world and how I be, had them choose me to marry them. But I'm telling you that standing up in front of 100 people, joining two close friends together and seeing the love in their eyes and creating that their community has everything to has everything to do with them being together, them staying together. It's really the community's responsibility, partially or a lot of, to stand for these two people even when they're not standing for each other. So it takes a village. You've heard that a million times. It takes a village, and it takes a village to have relationships work. I just think it's so ridiculous that people get married and all of a sudden they're on an island by themselves. They don't use their community to keep them married. It's just ridiculous. Another, a really great thing, a great book that I read this year was called Tribe. Highly recommend it. Really great. And it explains a lot of how society is going now and how individualized we are, and we don't take on the tribal aspects like we used to, that was around, how the tribes work in their community and how they're supportive and how they support their warriors and reintroduce them back into society after going to war. It was just a crazy, amazing book. And so marrying two people is what I want to do more. I love it. It's a self-expression, and I just really see that I can make a difference marrying people. It can be fun. It can be loving. It can bring the community in. It's just a contribution. I just want to do more. So if you're listening to this and you know anybody who wants to get married or yourself wants to get married, I'm for hire. So another thing that I took on was clarity, and I have found clarity in my day by using caffeine. And we all know where that caffeine road leads down, and it's bumpy, it's ups and downs, it's hilly, it's curvy, it's all kinds of stuff. For me, it's a battle of am I addicted? Am I not? Do I need this? Or, I need a cup of coffee or whatever. I don't like to need any substance to function during the day. I don't like to rely on anything besides natural. Get sleep and eat good, kind of that type of thing. But I took on drinking less coffee and drinking a type of coffee. It's from a company called Four Sigmatic, and they have a mushroom coffee, and it's chaga mushroom and lion's mane mushroom. Super great. It has me be clear. Doesn't give me the jitters. That's what I was drinking just a second ago. It doesn't give me jitters. It doesn't give me the highs or lows, and it really has a clarifying effect on my head. I can think when I drink too much coffee, I start to it's this feeling of thinking faster than I can talk, and then trying to catch up, trying to have my language catch up to my brain, because my brain is going 100 miles an hour and it not necessarily going in the right direction, and then my mouth try to catch up to that, and I find myself just like blah, 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 and spittering and spattering and going all kinds of different directions. It's ridiculous. So that's what I took on, and so anyways, that's the list I've got. That was the big rocks that I took on this year, and I really hope that you guys take some of these on, if not some, all, one, none. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear any kind of feedback actually from this podcast. If you want, would be so gracious as to rate the podcast in iTunes, that would be great. And I'd even know if if you're who's listening, people are listening, that kind of thing. I really enjoy doing these podcasts, and I really want to thank everybody who has listened, is listening right now, and all the ideas and the limited feedback that I have gotten back. It's been really great. And so I'm just going to continue to do it. Just keep throwing it out there until somebody kicks me off. So until next time, and next time will be very soon. That's another thing I'm taking on this year, is being more consistent with podcasting, having more episodes in more of a consistent manner, taking that on in 2017. So anyways, that's what I did. Rolling into 2017, I looked at 2016 and completed what I did. Looked at it, what was good, bad, success, failures, and just rolling into 2017. I got some plans. I got some good stuff coming out, and if you want to know more about me, you can follow me on Facebook. I'm on Robert Budd. Pretty much Robert Budd 16 on everything. Robert Budd 16 on Instagram, Facebook page, Robert Budd 16 on Twitter, LinkedIn, all that kind of good stuff. All right, so once again, thanks a million for listening, and until next time, let's see, what about until next time? Until next time, be grateful. Take on being grateful and being interested. That's your homework. All right? Love you tons, and catch you soon. Hey there, here's Robert one more time. Here's Robert. Before you go, if you would like to get a short email, a short little quick newsletter type email from me, giving you updates of what's going on, who's coming up in the podcast, just what I'm taking on in my life inside of diet, exercise, things like that, go to robertbudd.net and sign up for the newsletter. That'd be great. Also, if you liked or disliked this podcast, go on iTunes and rate it. I'm on iTunes, Stitcher, and on Google. You will find all of the show notes and the links and anything that I've mentioned inside of this podcast on robertbud.net/podcast. So, anyways, until next time, be great.